Nobody expects to wake up to the sound of sirens outside their cabin before sunrise, not unless something's gone sideways. 6 in the morning. There's a sheriff's cruiser idling in my driveway, headlights burning holes in the fog, and I'm standing there barefoot on the porch while a deputy asks, "Sir, did you call 911 about a disturbance?" Not me, no way. Hadn't seen another soul that morning, hadn't raised my voice, hadn't even stepped outside until the flashing lights hit my window. Across the road there's Karen, leaning against her SUV like she owns the whole block, arms crossed, lips tight in that way that says she's done her good deed for the day. Calm, smug, like she's got the script and I'm just an actor in her show. That's when it clicks. This wasn't about keeping the peace, this was about control. And standing there wrapped in early morning cold and confusion, I'm pretty sure she has no idea who she's messing with. Dan Harper, that's the name, but around here just Dan will do. Quiet, private, never the type to stir the pot. Most of my life I've ducked trouble, kept my head down. 5 years back, the world got heavy burnout loss, the kind of grief that makes you question everything. My answer was this old cabin, a patch of woods at the end of a dirt road, a place where the loudest thing at night is your own heartbeat. Didn't buy this spot for status or some investment. Didn't want eyes on me, just a little peace. Fixed what needed fixing, kept my routines, early mornings steady, hands quiet, evenings. Never needed luxury, never cared about anyone else's business. Out here, if you respect your neighbor's fence, they respect yours. That's always been the real law. 30-odd homes scattered through the trees, some ancient, some shiny new, all connected by those unwritten rules. Mind your business. Help if it's asked. Leave folks alone if it's not. People wave, folks lend tools, but no one cares about your car or your porch paint. No snitching if your fence leans or your lights burn late. Silence is just the language of respect. That was life until the changes crept in. At first, more cars on the road. Then unfamiliar faces, new driveways punched through the brush speed where there'd always been calm. People figured it would blow over, but the air changed. Conversations shrank. Gates started getting double-checked. No one said anything out loud, but the old peace was wearing thin. The new homes cropped up on the south side, one at a time, then in clusters. Fresh paint, perfect lawns, plans that looked copied and pasted from the city. Karen showed up with them, and right away you could tell she wasn't here to blend in. Polite, sure, but every word polished. Flyers for neighborhood meet and greets talk about standards and property value. The older folks nodded and smiled, but under it something shifted. Karen started talking about an HOA, just light structure, just to help. New people liked it. Old ones shrugged, and I stayed out of it. My place was separate, my habits unchanged. When she talked to me, it was always careful. Compliments for my rustic look, soft suggestions about storing my tools or keeping the mornings quiet. Never crossed a line outright, but all those little nudges pointed one way, her way. Kept my answers friendly but non-committal. Checked my deed clear as sunrise. No HOA, no covenants, my land and my business. Politely told Karen as much. She replied just as politely, hinting that expectations might evolve. Wasn't a threat, but it wasn't neighborly either. Emails, flyers, and reminders kept coming. Invitations to meetings I never attended, notices assuming I was part of the club. Each message dressed in friendly language, each assuming a kind of authority I never signed up for. Still, I kept my routine. Figured boundaries once set would be respected. That was naive. What followed wasn't about rules, it was about pressure. Soon enough, county notices started showing up. A concern has been raised, possible non-compliant activity. All vague, no fines, just a steady drip of paperwork. Inspections followed. Zoning, fire, safety, environmental, you name it. Every inspector was apologetic. Every visit ended with, "You're all good, but we have to check." Other neighbors started getting visits too. Warnings about old sheds, suggestions their driveways didn't meet standards, all minor but piling up. Karen was always concerned, never accusatory. So I started documenting everything, dates, times, inspectors' photos. Not out of paranoia, but because a pattern was writing itself across our lives. Small things went wrong at home. My gate closed itself. Tools moved. Mailbox vanished, removed for visibility standards. Orange cones blocked my driveway. Tire tracks and footprints showed up where they shouldn't. Still no accusations, just more notes in my file. The complaints escalated. Now they were about behavior disturbances, intimidation. All vague, all just enough to warrant another look. Then came the police visits. First a welfare check, then a report of raised voices, even when I was alone. Each time I stayed calm, explained things, let them see for themselves. Karen never raised her voice, never made demands, just stayed in the background perfectly pleasant. But her handprints were all over the complaints. One morning it boiled over. Multiple cruisers' lights on officers expecting trouble. Karen across the road watching the show. Deputies asked questions. I answered. Explained the long string of visits, the inspections, the lack of any real findings. One deputy off to the side said, "Keep documenting. If this keeps up, it's on her, not you." That was the pivot. Spent that day going through every scrap of paper. I had old deed surveys, even faded title records. Turned out my land boundaries weren't just what I thought they were, bigger running underneath those very new homes Karen and her friends called their HOA. Old land never formally split rights retained from decades ago. The HOA had no real legal reach, not just over me, but a big chunk of the development. Showed it to a local land use attorney guy with an office above a hardware store, no fancy handshake. He went quiet, then said, "They can complain, but they can't enforce a thing." He put it in writing, sent it to the county, the board, the developer. No threats, just facts. Silence fell heavy and immediate. County notices stopped. Inspectors stopped coming by. Emails from the HOA dried up. Neighbors got letters that their complaints were void, their records cleared. Karen's name faded from everything. Meetings were postponed. The whole thing, this big machine for creating pressure, just stopped. Looking back, the real harm Karen did wasn't calling the county or the cops. It was assuming authority that never existed. Systems don't need anger to work, they need truth. When truth shows up, false power withers quietly. Karen left with no speech, no apology, just disappeared. The HOA shrank down to nothing. If there's any lesson worth learning, it's this: patience and facts will outlast pressure every time. Systems don't fold under shouting. They fold when someone finally understands them better than the person abusing them. Control only works if people are too tired to check the paperwork. Now the neighborhood's settled. Gates are left open again. Folks have stopped looking over their shoulders. I didn't have to be a hero, just had to wait. Keep records and trust that the right piece of paper was stronger than the loudest accusation. There's peace again. And that peace feels hard-earned but worth it. Power without consent is just noise. Respect boundaries and a little patience, that's what really lasts. Karen's gone, her SUV nowhere in sight, and the old routine is back. Quiet mornings, friendly waves, the kind of silence that means freedom, not fear. Ever had an HOA or a neighbor try to twist the rules? Drop your story in the comments. I want to hear it. And if stories like this matter to you, stick around, share with friends. These things happen more often than folks realize, and nobody should feel alone facing them. These days, the only thing echoing through my woods is the sound of my own work. No more complaints, no more fake authority, just a life lived quietly on my terms. And sometimes the best answer is to hold your ground, stay patient, and let the truth do its quiet, unstoppable work.